This is the Old Republic, an era when Jedi and Sith clashed in open warfare, Mandalorians ravaged the outlying systems, and swoop gangs ruled the underworld. It's one of the coolest eras in Star Wars, filled with awesome characters and epic conflicts, and it all started with one of the greatest Star Wars video games of all time, Knights of the Old Republic. Few stories before or since have so perfectly captured the character, soul, scale, and even humor of Star Wars. An epic quest for the fate of the galaxy, familiar and original locations to visit, impactful decisions that make you feel like a real Jedi or Sith, unforgettable characters like Revan, Bastila, Malak, and HK-47, punctuated by one of the best twists in Star Wars. Darth Vader's
"I am your father"
line is iconic, but it was Revan's identity who truly blew my teenage mind. It's that classic Star Wars drama made even better by one simple fact. You get to play it. If you haven't, you owe it to yourself to experience this game and this story. If you have, let's examine what made Knights of the Old Republic such a classic.
1, 2, 3.
Down you go! Listen, you talentless organic meatbag.
Tatooine, Kashyyyk, Manam, Korriban.
Wipe this pathetic planet from the face of the galaxy. You are nothing.
Can you imagine being a Jedi as a kid? Come on, I know you did. What did you actually imagine yourself doing? Were you on the run from the Empire, skulking through backwater planets, trying to uncover some way to survive? Were you unleashing the full power of the Force to devastate everything in sight and fling the rubble at your enemies in some quest for revenge? Or were you a noble Jedi Knight dueling Sith Lords, helping those in need, enforcing peace and justice? Maybe a little of each? Knights of the Old Republic is for those of us in that third group. It scratches a different sort of itch than the power fantasy of the Force Unleashed or the modern combat of Jedi Fallen Order. This is about being a Jedi in the world, with all that that entails. Settling disputes, solving mysteries, discovering secrets, freeing slaves, righting wrongs, resisting the influence of the Sith. It's a role-playing game in which you are truly playing the role of a Jedi, or a Sith if you're into that sort of thing. Like no other story, it throws you into the middle of the core Star Wars drama, the battle between light and dark, good and evil, Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. That's about so much more than the clash of lightsabers. You get to use the power of the Force, feel the pull of the dark side, make choices that move you down a path, see how it affects the world around you, and ultimately decide the fate of the universe and yourself. In the movies and books, you can observe this grand drama from afar, but here you must do it for yourself, because Knights of the Old Republic is, above all, a game, and that makes all the difference. To understand Knights of the Old Republic's unique experience, it's important to understand that the medium of a story goes a long way in determining what kind of story it can be and how an audience experiences it. A movie is not the same as a novel, which is not the same as a comic book, even when covering the same events. Read the excellent novelization of Revenge of the Sith, for example, and you will see how different the same story can feel in different forms. Movies are audiovisual, so they can make use of grand spectacles, musical cues, subtle body language and facial expressions, and tone of voice to create drama and evoke emotion, but they are limited to an external view and a few hours of runtime, so they generally focus on key moments, interpersonal conflicts, and strong action. They can show exactly what they want the audience to see, but they can't force them to understand the emotions or motivations or details within the characters and the world. Books must describe everything in words alone, relying on the reader's imagination to actuate them. But they have much more space to do so and no limitations on what can be described, so they are often able to express exactly what the characters are thinking or feeling in any moment, and explicitly point out details around them in the world. Thus, novels tend to be more psychological, focused on internal conflicts and development as much as or more than external conflicts, and they can cover long periods of time much more easily, giving characters and events more room to develop in complex ways. Games have elements of each, being audio-visual but without the depth of detail, at least for now, provided by human actors, while also having more space to develop the characters and world over long periods and extended conflicts. But the biggest difference is that the games have a player. The person experiencing the story is also a part of it, effectuating the action even when they aren't strictly deciding it. There's just a different level of investment, not only in the outcome of the story, but in the characters, the one you're playing as and the one around you. In any game, especially big RPGs that might take 50 hours or more, you spend a lot of time in the world with the characters. So the best game stories are about high stakes, player agency, and strong relationships. With Knights of the Old Republic, Canadian developer BioWare nailed all three, which is a big reason it was so beloved at the time and is still remembered today. If you're going to be part of the world, first you need to have a really compelling world. Knights of the Old Republic takes us to a new era of Star Wars, letting the world feel new and exciting while also instantly recognizable. Remember when you first heard Obi-Wan tell Luke that the Jedi were guardians of peace and justice in the Old Republic? This is what I imagined. The prequel era felt like the late Republic, with the Jedi Order gone soft for lack of conflict, but Knights of the Old Republic lives up to the name. The Jedi and the Republic have been backed into a corner, losing influence and territory to a resurgent Sith Empire. They had just been nearly defeated by the Mandalorians, here shown as a race of elite warriors hell-bent on conquering the galaxy just for the thrill of battle, saved only by the tactical genius of Jedi Knight Revan. But then Revan betrayed them, falling to the dark side with his apprentice, Darth Malak, and leading the Sith Empire on a new rampage. Malak then turned on Revan, as Sith always do, firing on his ship during battle and taking over the Sith Empire for himself, which is where the game starts. We'll get to the plot in a minute, but for now I just want to appreciate how much this feels like Star Wars. The ships, the weapons, the planets, the aliens, the characters, the themes. Nothing feels out of place in this universe, but it's also not just the same stuff we've seen elsewhere. It mixes in just enough of the familiar elements to ground you in the universe while also introducing new elements to bring a sense of mystery and discovery. So you get instantly recognizable locations like Tatooine, where you battle Tusken Raiders and a Krayt Dragon in the Dune Seas, but you also get planets we've only heard about, like Kashyyyk or Dantooine, as well as new locations like the cityscape of Terrace or the ocean world of Manan. Others are twists on existing ideas, the card game Pazak instead of Sabak, swoop racing instead of pod racing, or the prim and proper protocol droid who's a psychopathic killer.
Query, can I kill him now, Master? I would like ever so much to crush his neck. Just a little. It is a long-time fantasy of mine. You hear that, meatbag? I will be back.
Of course, some things never change, like lightsabers and blasters and the Force, and it all comes together to feel absolutely faithful and genuine while also fresh and interesting. This is Star Wars, just at a slightly different era. 4,000 years really isn't that long in the grand scheme of things. So it's a joy just to walk around in it, roam the planets and the stars, interact with a variety of aliens and factions, and complete quests from the menial to the epic. You'll want to play this game just to be a part of that universe. But don't worry, you're still in for one hell of an adventure. Knights of the Old Republic throws you into the middle of a galactic civil war between the Republic and the Sith Empire. You start as a simple Republic soldier whose ship comes under attack by Sith forces over the city planet of Terrace. But it quickly becomes clear that this is not an ordinary ship on an ordinary mission. You are escorting Bastila Shan, a Jedi whose special battle meditation was the key to defeating Darth Revan and may be the Republic's only hope against his apprentice, Darth Malak. With the help of Karth Onasi, a decorated Republic pilot, you manage to escape to the surface where the race is on to find Bastila before the Sith. But saving Bastila awakens the latent force powers within you, exposing a mysterious bond that might just be the key to uncovering the secrets of Revan and Malak that could save the galaxy, or destroy it. This is a classic setup, and perfect for a game like this, which sees you leveling up from a common soldier to a Padawan to a Jedi Master on a long quest to save the universe. But it's not your traditional story because it's still first and foremost a game, and here's where the difference in medium comes into play. While many games have great stories, and we've even had some narrative-driven games like Dispatch or the old Telltale classics, games are ultimately about gameplay. Profound, I know. What I mean is that most of the time in the game isn't spent watching the story or listening to dialogue. It has to be active, which generally involves some combination of exploration, problem solving, and combat. In any RPG, you're going to spend a lot of time fighting enemies, walking across the map, picking up objects, and talking to NPCs. You can integrate the story into these moments to some extent, and it all contributes to the world building, but it has a different flow than a tightly plotted book or movie. If you're making a movie, you don't tell the story of the hero finding a lost droid for some random person in the cantina. Unless it's somehow critical to the plot or the character's evolution, you just don't have time for such a distraction. But in a game, you do. It's practically mandatory to have these small side quests to fill out the world, extend the playtime, and give players a way to get extra experience or loot. A game has to give space for the player to move around and make decisions about where to go and what to do. It has to have plenty of opportunities for conflict and direct action. It has to take you to a variety of locations to keep the experience fresh. And it has to make sense whether the player blitzes through the story or takes their time to explore between scenes. So how do you structure a game in a way that allows for player freedom without the story being jumbled, that lets players explore without ever going off track, that is expansive while still managing to bring everything back to a single conflict? Knights of the Old Republic chose to separate portions of the story into independent sections that can be rearranged in any order, with linear segments between. So after the single starting zone of Terrace and hub world of Dantooine, you can travel to any of the 4 primary planets. Unfortunately, this means none of the quests on the planets progress the story directly. For that, you have small scenes after finishing the first 2 and larger segments after the 3rd and 4th, leading into the finale. This lets the game give you a focus, set you free, and then pull it all together at the end, with the cost of having a lot of content that might seem like filler. But that's an inevitable trade-off. While modern games tend to have less strictly defined segments and tasks, you can find the same basic structure undergirding other story-driven open-world games from The Witcher 3 to Ghost of Tsushima. Western RPGs have always prioritized this freedom and flexibility over linear narratives, firmly grounded in the principle of giving players a choice.
Hey, you're finally awake.
Knights of the Old Republic is built around the fundamental idea of player agency. Not just in the way you build your character or how you approach combat or which side quests you do, but in the story and, ultimately, in the world itself. The way this plays out in the game is through what would become one of BioWare's signature mechanics, the morality system.
I know we have to be careful about drawing attention to ourselves here. Are we gonna just let them drag this guy off?
Star Wars was the perfect place to prototype this simple, binary system of good and evil. The choices you make either move you closer to the light side or to the dark side. So specific dialogue options or actions give you light side and dark side points, slowly moving the meter on your character screen up or down and changing the background to either a luminous blue or ominous red. Your character model and portrait even become slightly dark and corrupted as you fall to the dark side, which I always thought was a nice touch, and a cooler explanation for Palpatine's grisly appearance than electrocuting himself, but oh well. Your force powers also cost less to use depending on your alignment, and if you manage to fill up the meter all the way to either side, you get extra bonuses. So while nothing stops you from using Force Lightning as a paragon of the light, it does cost a lot more force points than your healing powers. Of course, you can also try to be neutral, sometimes choosing light, sometimes dark. There's no real benefit to doing so, unless you count getting to kill a particularly annoying NPC instead of letting them go a benefit. But the occasional reward might be too tempting to pass up. For instance, you get some hefty dark side points for participating in a death match as the final arena battle on Terrace, but it gets you one of the best early game blasters. Besides, the guy was a total jerk, so my conscience is clear. In general though, you'll want to pick a side and stick with it. Pretty much everything in the main story and many side quests has an option to go light or dark, with the outcome being different depending on what you choose. For instance, on Tatooine, you need to get past a group of Tusken Raiders who are harassing locals across the Dune Sea. You can choose to negotiate with the Tusken Raiders by helping them get the moisture evaporators they need in exchange for information and a tentative truce. Alternatively, you can just storm the base, slaughter everyone, and take what you need.
They're like animals, and I slaughtered them like animals.
Or you can be a true gamer who negotiates for the experience and light side points, then kills them all afterwards so you can loot the base for maximum rewards. Look, I'm not here to judge you. Whichever path you take in these and countless smaller choices, It doesn't make much difference in the main story or what happens on the next planet you visit, but it does make a difference in the kind of universe you are leaving in your wake, the overall vibe of your playthrough. And all of your small choices, whether you followed the light or have fallen to the dark, do have an impact on how the story ends. I remember this felt so awesome at the time, a game letting you choose between good and evil, your choices having a real impact on the story. When I play it today, though, it's obvious this is a mere prototype for what's to come. The morality is extremely binary, pure good versus pure evil. Most situations give you the option of being a righteous protector and diplomat or an absolute psychopathic killer and jerk, with not much in between. This is not a game like The Witcher, where moral ambiguity pervades the world, where trying to help someone might lead to their death, or the guy that you thought was good turns out to be lying. Sure, part of that might be the clear Star Wars dichotomy, but I think it's more that the concept of representing morality in games is still in its infancy and being worked out. Because there is nuance to how the game presents characters like Bastila, Karth, or Revan, and how it portrays the Jedi and the Force. It's just not present in the morality system itself. But you can see how BioWare kept experimenting and refining the choices in future games like Dragon Age or Mass Effect, both of which draw a lot of inspiration from Knights of the Old Republic. As games became more complex in general, so did the system of choices and the morality they are able to represent, whether it's The Witcher or Baldur's Gate 3 or Disco Elysium. That's not a mark against Knights of the Old Republic or a reason not to revisit it. As we'll see, even in this early stage, it reinforces the themes and conflicts of the story, immersing you in the moral drama of Star Wars like nothing else ever has. Alright, we're about to get into some heavy spoilers, so if you've never played the game and don't know what happens, please go play it and then come back. And if you've enjoyed this video so far, subscribe to the channel now so you don't miss the next one. Help me hit 10,000 subscribers this year, that would be awesome. Also, join me on Discord to talk about Knights of the Old Republic and let me know what you want to see next. The link is in the description. With that said, let's get into it. Knights of the Old Republic takes many of the core ideas of Star Wars and casts them onto a galactic scale. The original Star Wars hints at the eternal struggle between good and evil, light and dark, Jedi and Sith, but it is ultimately a very personal story of redemption between father and son. When Obi-Wan mentions the Jedi of the Old Republic, we can feel the weight and grandeur of this history, but it is a lost history. We never get to see how the grand drama at the heart of Star Wars played out on a grand scale. The prequels begin to pull on this thread a little, but Knights of the Old Republic, which started production soon after the release of Phantom Menace, may be the best, most epic representation of it we've had. The story is set against the backdrop of a massive invasion by the Sith Empire. Years before we enter the scene, the Republic fought a brutal war against the Mandalorians, who were only defeated when a group of Jedi, under the command of tactical genius Jedi Knight Revan, were finally able to drive them back. But something happened out there during the war. Revan, his friend Malak, and many of the other Jedi who joined the Republic were corrupted, falling to the dark side amidst their victory. Revan and Malak reformed the Sith Empire, turning on the Republic and unleashing a devastating civil war. In becoming the hero the galaxy needed, Revan ended up its ultimate villain. Powerless against the brilliance of Darth Revan and a seemingly endless fleet of ships, the Republic lured Revan into a skirmish where a small group of Jedi, aided by Bastila's unique powers of battle meditation, are able to infiltrate his ship and confront the Dark Lord. Before either side can prevail, however, Darth Malak fires on Revan's ship to destroy his master and take control of the Sith Empire for himself. The Jedi escape, but Malak is able to continue a more brutal but no less effective campaign against the Republic. I only explain this backstory because it truly sets the theme of the game as a whole. The galaxy and the characters are dealing with a betrayal. They watched as their mentors, friends, and heroes fell to the dark side and turned on them. How can you trust anyone after that? How can you trust yourself not to do the same? That's the question the game is asking you to answer. You are a Republic soldier and a Jedi. There's no option to start on the Sith side of the war. So with every encounter, every quest, every decision, the game is tempting you to betray your cause and give in to the dark side for personal gain. And because it's a game, there are real stakes in those decisions. Being a jerk or a murderer really does pay, in cash. Also other benefits. Often, you can extort people for extra money or do shady deals for your own gain, like selling the precious disease cure to the mob instead of giving it to the doctor to help the undercity poor. And appropriately, the dark side path is easier from a gameplay perspective. It's more convenient to kill the Tuscans instead of trekking across the desert and buying them evaporators, or killing a bounty target instead of helping them work out a feud with a former lover. Plus, the powers are stronger and cooler. Who doesn't want to shoot lightning or drain life or choke their enemies to death? What does the light side ever give you? Warm feelings and virtue points. It's a brilliant storytelling mechanic, because if you are playing the game normally without specifically aiming for a certain build, you constantly get put into a position where you would like to do dark side things, but know you shouldn't. It's so tempting. You know you shouldn't kill that hunter for his stuff, or enslave the Wookiees for that mega corporation money, or be a total jerk to Karth as he's telling you about his fears. It would make things a lot easier on you. After all, it's just a video game. You're not actually murdering or enslaving or traumatizing anyone. Yet the human in us still finds it unsettling. If you want to do a dark side run, you have to turn off the human side of you and just gleefully commit to being a maniac. And for the record, I recommend you do it at least once, just to see how everything turns out. This pull between the light and the dark is what gives the story its meaning and impact. It's like you are playing out the central premises of Star Wars. The allure of Palpatine, the fall of Anakin, the redemption through Luke, instead of just watching them. And like Empire Strikes Back, it all hinges on a mind-bending twist that flips everything on its head and suddenly makes the stakes so much higher. From the beginning of the game, Karth has been constantly harping on you about doing the right thing, always expecting another betrayal. It makes sense because he, and the galaxy, were betrayed by Revan, Malak, and Saul in the last conflict. The Jedi especially are suspect, which at the time was unusual for Star Wars. Bastila is a bit cold and imperious, though she's trying to do the right thing, and the other Jedi are evasive about their reasoning. Karth eventually opens up about his desire for revenge, and Bastila warms to your relationship and her own insecurities, but the game continues to hesitate, tempting you again and again, as if it knows you feel the pull toward the dark. Something seems off, but you can't quite figure out why, until you confront Malak for the first time and it all comes together.
They say the Force can do terrible things to a mind. It can wipe away your memories and destroy your very identity.
What greater weapon is there than to turn an enemy to your cause, to use their own knowledge against them?
You are Revan. You are the fallen hero who betrayed the galaxy. Bastila saved you from the wreck, imprinting a piece of herself on your mind in the process, and then the Jedi erased your memories with the Force, hoping to use you against Malak. Now it all makes sense. The Jedi were desperate enough to take a massive risk that stretches their own code of morality. Karth, having just taken his revenge on Saul, now has a new dilemma to face, his worst fears seemingly justified. Bastila knew all along, and was in on the deception, done for a righteous cause, but her guilt is manifest as she sacrifices herself to let the others escape. But most of all, it's a shock to the player. You have been playing this character as if it is yourself, without a set destiny, whichever path you chose. Maybe you're asking yourself what it means to uphold the light or give in to the dark. But now you have a past, a legacy, and the question is no longer whether you will be good or evil, but whether you can change. Given a fresh start, will you inevitably succumb to the same mistakes you made before, or will you become something better? Is redemption even possible? Even if it is, why should anyone believe it? How can you ever be assured you won't fall again? Can you really continue on as normal, knowing what you know? Were the Jedi right to take a chance on you? Obviously, on the dark side path, all those answers are no, but the light side offers one final test. While you are off completing the final star map, Malak has taken Bastila to the Star Forge. Upon reaching the planet where it orbits and fighting to the top of the ancient temple there, you come face to face with Bastila, who has fallen to the dark side and sworn allegiance to Malak. It's a sharp turn for her character, but not altogether unrealistic. She, like Revan, was forced by circumstances to become the hero of a war, and she feels used by the Jedi for her power without being given much in return, an echo of Anakin's downfall. The Jedi fed her arrogance and superiority while stripping away her emotional attachments, leading to years of simmering resentment toward her parents, and the one new attachment she forms, with Revan, is built on a lie. So she's replaying Revan's past, and wants to join forces with him against Malak and the Jedi. But for the player, for Revan, this is the person who is responsible for your redemption, who saved your life and gave you a fresh start. Seeing her follow your old self down the path to the dark side is shocking and painful. Had she not saved you, she wouldn't be here. Is that the price of redemption? Is it worth it? Are you really redeemed at all if your influence continues to corrupt those closest to you? Or can you put all of this right once and for all? Defeated, Bastila flees from your first encounter, but you meet her again aboard the Starforge. This is the final moment where you must make your choice and decide the fate of the galaxy and yourself. Bastila does not back down, forcing you to either join her or defeat her. You must do so multiple times, and each time you are offered another choice, another chance. Are you sure you are making the right decision? Do you really, truly believe she can turn back? It's not quick or easy. You must prove your commitment to redemption again and again and again. And even then, you may not succeed if your relationship isn't strong enough. But you can do it. As she saved you, you can save her. The allure of the dark side will always be there. You cannot escape the past, even when you forget it. But you can overcome it. You can atone for it. This is the heart of Star Wars. After that, the final confrontation with Malak is a mere formality. You're always going to win. The only question is which side of you will win. Freedom or power. Compassion or compulsion. Hero or conqueror. Light or dark. Ever at war within you. Make your choice.
Savior, conqueror, hero, villain, you are all things, Revan, and yet you are nothing. In the end, you belong to neither the light nor the darkness. You will forever stand alone.
If there's a criticism to be made of Knights of the Old Republic story, it's that the pacing can feel off. Slow in the middle and rushed at the end. There isn't much build-up to Bastila's turn, and the time from when you discover the location of the Starforge to its destruction is short and straightforward. This is typical in open-world games in general, and BioWare games in particular. Focusing on player agency and branching paths makes it difficult to control how the story progresses and limits how expansive the story can be, lest the branches become too numerous. At least Knights of the Old Republic maintains a coherent plot and brings all the pieces together to a satisfying conclusion. Anyone who's experienced the mess that is Mass Effect 3's story should be familiar with how it can all go wrong. The truth is, BioWare has never been exceptional in their narratives. What you remember about BioWare games, from Knights of the Old Republic to Mass Effect to Dragon Age, is probably not the main specific plot points or particularly moving scenes. What you remember are the characters, Revan and Karth and HK, Shepard and Garrus and Rex, the Warden and Alistair and Morgan. That's where BioWare excels. And it makes sense, because while there are relatively few cutscenes and story beats, you spend a lot of your time in the game walking around with, or fighting alongside, or talking to your companions. There's a lot of time for witty banter, or revealing reactions, or personal dialogue. Often they will chime in with their opinion on your decisions.
Did we come this far only to kill this old look? I don't approve of this at all.
Every character has their own story to tell and a reason to follow you, which you can tease out if you put enough work in getting to know them. They have personal quests that you can complete to learn more and earn their loyalty. You can even romance some of them if you choose. The charm of the game comes first and foremost from the characters, even the ones that don't matter much. Because let's be honest, only Revan, Karth, and Bastila are essential to the plot. The other party members are there for flavor and gameplay. You can kill most of them at some point if you choose to. That's a good thing though, not a problem. Lets you view different sides and perspectives without having to force them into the main plot. The game would be less fun and less interesting without these characters, even if the main story would largely be the same, because their smaller stories reinforce and add complexity to the main themes of the game. They all have different issues, but each of them is in some way trying to overcome their past and make sense of what it means for their future. Their past actions, their family relationships, and how they view the past have profound impact on who they are, who they want to be, and who they are able to become. Does our past, or our memories of the past, define who we are? Is it even accurate? Does it have to stay with us forever? Or can people truly change? For Mission, her idealized version of the past is holding her back from seeing the truth. For Zalbar, his shame of the past prevents him from doing what's right. For Canderous, his glorification of the past blinds him to the dark reality behind it. And for Jolie, his painful experiences have made him cynical and reclusive. For Juhani, her fall to the dark side forever looms over her, threatening to return. Each of them, like Karth, Bastila, and Revan, must confront the demons of their past and either succumb to the inevitability of fate or prove that they are in control of their destiny. These small episodes fill in and reinforce the main story, making the world feel rich, the characters deep, and the game real. Then there's HK-47, whose unhinged sadistic glee adds a touch of levity to an otherwise dark story.
Commentary. I say we blast the meat bag and save you the trouble, Master.
Also T3M4, he's there too. We love these characters because they integrate so well into everything the game is doing, because few of them feel superfluous and none of them feel out of place, because they are some of the best characters in all of Star Wars. Like the world, like the story, you may want to play just to meet these people and spend a few dozen hours in their company. I'm not gonna lie, Knights of the Old Republic hasn't aged well in every aspect. The combat is clunky, the graphics are dated, and the environments are sparse. But who cares? That's not what we remember about it, and it's not why we still play it today. We remember how we felt to be a part of the world. We remember how we got to be our own Jedi or Sith. We remember how we fell in love with the characters. We remember how the twist changed everything. Not because we found out we were Revan, but because even knowing we were Revan, with all the history behind us, the game still lets us choose who we'd become. That is the truth of Star Wars. No matter the hero you were or the villain you became, there is still a danger of your downfall and a hope for your redemption. The choice is up to you. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you'll like this retrospective I did on TIE Fighter, a classic Star Wars game. And subscribe for more classic Star Wars content coming up. See you next time.